you guys. How are you doing on this Saturday? I hope everything's going well for you. I know it's a Saturday before before the Christmas holiday, and hope that you're doing well. Just wanted to share a little something with you today. That was on my mind, and on this wonderful Saturday as we kind of prepare for the holidays, and we're out here spending money, and we're overwhelmed, we're stressed, and then trying to get ready for the new year also. So this is just something. I hope that it's a pearl of something that that you can use that can take you to a better space and a better perspective. Part of you, I don't know if any of you know that part of what I do is I'm an adjunct professor part-time, and I teach master level social workers. And one of the things I teach them is to have a different perspective. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen the picture of the lady that's older and then the lady that is young, and you see them both in the same picture. I'm always trying to bestow upon social workers that you have to see people and your clients and the families that you work with. You have to see things from a different perspective. You have to see things from their perspective, and you have to be flexible enough to be a person that's adaptable and that can see things from put on a different lens. Put on my ugly glasses, but put on a different lens, and see things from a different space and time and what have you, and not be so linear in your thinking. And I think about that in regards to money. I think sometimes we see our perspective on money. We see it as something that's powerful and that we have to have, and almost like we worship it. And it's just something that's very interesting. And today, just to tie all that in, when I think about money and perspective, and and we think about our finances and things like that. I went to my bank today, and I needed to get some money, draw some money out. I'm going out of the country to visit my family, and I just needed to have some cash on me before I go. So it took some time to get to the bank, but I rolled up in there kind of late, close to the cutoff time. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to get there. And noticed that when I drove up, there were no green lights. It was just weird. And it was just, and then I drove out of the teller area, or the drive-up area, went back into drove into the parking lot, and noticed that it just looked desolate and weird. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my bank is closed down. I'm out of business. Oh, so my worst nightmare came, to mind. I'm gonna change arms. So my worst nightmare, I was thinking, oh my goodness, I've been hearing so much about people like on YouTube, and just, people having challenges with their banks and how they go and withdraw money. They're not able to give money. And there's just kind of all this hoopla about banks, and, and the problems that banks are having, and, don't put your money in the bank. And so I started kind of like freaking out a little bit, like, oh my goodness, my worst nightmare. And anyway, so I noticed that, as I was looking around, everything looked desolate. It was like, oh my goodness. And then I saw a big white sign, and I drove up to it and read it. Oh, we moved. Thank goodness. So I, said, okay, well, still have a few minutes to get there, and hope it's not far. I'm looking, I'm like, oh, it was directly across the street. So I was able to, get everything done. That was fine. But it just, gave me it's kind of like, oh my gosh. And so it just, so it's kind of, it's funny how, we think of money. And I just want to give you a little story, little backstory. Before I got into social work, I was actually in financial, and I worked on the trade floor, government trade bonds floor. And I wasn't a trader, I was an assistant to a trader. But I worked in that environment for many years. And that was my, first career. And I, learned a lot, as a result. One thing I learned was a lot about, investing and stock financial instruments, and and all kinds of things I learned about finances. I read books, and I remember one book I never forgot about. It was just giving the history of money. It was just very interesting that currency was not always these greenbacks. Currency actually is something that's really in its infancy, in human civilization. There were, before dollar bills, there were coins, and then before coins, there were, I can't remember, exactly, just kind of the chronological order, but I know that salt was at one time something that was traded as currency, and that was just always stayed. How some things you learn, you hear, and it stays with you. It can be the strangest thing, and you just never forget, and that was one of the things I never forgot. Like, what? And also, which I've heard of before, that people bartered, so people, in other words, if your neighbor has something that maybe you didn't have, instead of paying in currency, you would just barter. You would switch and say, well, we have pigs, and, or we have this particular crop. We have, pecans, and you have corn. And so we would switch, would barter and switch up. And that way, you would have something that I didn't have, and I would have something you didn't have. And that's kind of how, that was the exchange system, barter system. So it's just really interesting how historically, as we've moved on in our time, that, we have moved away from, we moved towards this, dollar bills and what have you, and all of the different countries and developing countries and what have you. And so, yeah, and it's just, I don't know, it's just really interesting to think about that. And so I thought about that, and for some reason, this came to mind today. I thought, we give money so much power, and I'm like, what if something happened and that money was no longer a value? And just going back to my economic course classes, I remember scarcity. If you have a scarcity of something, then, I know the price goes up. If you have a decrease in scarcity, the prices go up. If you have an increase in scarcity, the prices can go down. Demand can go down. Therefore, prices go down. I do remember that also. It's kind of strange. But it just made me think about it. It's like, so what if, and I thought about, what if we had a situation where you had, meat, and you wanted this meat, and this particular meat, maybe it was salmon, not man-made meat, right? But actual real salmon, which that's another story, but that's a whole nother story. But just imagine that you have salmon that actually is, real salmon, and very, very limited real salmon, not man-made, or even chicken that's real chicken, and you wanted to exchange for something that was of value to you. One person has $1 million, another person has water, pure clean water with no biohazards in it and what have you. Another person may have salt that I could season, limited salt, maybe Himalayan pink salt or something like that. That's healthier version of, of our salt, not like our table salt, but that, that was healthier. But that was, again, all of these are scarce resources, limited because of our environment, which could be really true one day, right? When we think about our environment. And anyway, and you imagine a person that, okay, has $1 million. Oh my goodness, today when clean air, I mean, is, understatement, but I mean, our air is pretty decent, for the most part here, at least where I am. Some states, they have more challenges with pollution and things like that. But, for the most part, our air, clean air, you can go and you can get machines and what have you, and put them in your home, and you can get some clean air and what have you. But just imagine, again, if you didn't have that, and, clean air means, better health, clean water can mean better health, maybe life, longer longevity, things like that. That's valuable, right? And a person, maybe have $1 million, but maybe there's a point where that $1 million is, maybe there will come a time where $1 million you won't be able to buy as much because of the scarcity of our resources, right? And so just imagine that, you had to choose from those people. Would you choose that $1 million? And if you found out the $1 million wasn't really worth, maybe, $1 million is not worth $10 versus the clean air, which could be worth way more value, because of, maybe, again, I'm imagining, and which is not far from my imagination, that clean water and clean air you know, is whoever imagined that we would buy water? I mean, I know growing up, we didn't buy water. Water came out of the faucet. We drank water from the, water hose. We wouldn't dare do that today. So it's really reality for my generation, at least. So, anyway, it was just something, when you think about that, it kind of changes. If you're in that situation, if you were ever, God forbid, were to be in that situation, what would that $1 million mean versus those other resources that were scarce in our imagination at this time? In this particular story, okay, this is I call them practice scenarios as I teach my courses. And, but just imagine that. Just imagine that. Where would your values be? Right? It's just something I just want. So it's something I wanted to put on your mind to think about, not worry about, but just kind of give you a different perspective. Just to give you a different perspective on, to give you a different perspective as you think about money. And as you think about, money is another resource. It could change its value at any given time. Look at what the market's doing now. Think about the recession, we're about to go into, or they're threatening to get us into, and think about, so many other things, the housing market, and, all the other markets that are out there, thinking about those things and how they're going to be impacted by the recession, our inflation, our food. I'm here now, right before I'm going in to get my groceries, I'm trying to impart some pearl of wisdom, pearls of wisdom, right? So, or whatever, for whatever that's worth. But I just wanted you to think about that story and how it can change your perspective on money, and that as it changes your perspective on money, maybe, it can help you to see money in a different way. And then you can see it as you see, maybe your behavior, your thoughts and attitude about it can change, maybe, I don't know. And maybe it can help you to, to see your goals in a different way, right? Your financial goals, hence the way that we spend, the way that we use money. Money is a resource. It can be used for good. It can be used for bad. So anyway, I just wanted to, put that out there. I'm not going to tell you anymore. You do with that whatever you want to do with it, okay? Or do nothing with it. But that was on my heart, and I just wanted to share it with you. All right. Well, that's all I have to say. I hope that you enjoy your Saturday, or enjoy yourself, and, enjoy your holidays. If I don't talk to you again, enjoy, the new year as we go into 2023. And be safe, okay? And try not to allow the excitement of the holidays to put you into too much debt, okay? If at all. And that you really also think about the spirit of the holidays and the meaning of the holidays and what have you. And take care of yourselves, okay? Talk to you later. Bye-bye.